If you're tired of watching countless FastAPI videos and still struggling, you came to the right place. In this video, we are building an intermediate backend social media app using FastAPI. This intermediate project will answer a lot of your FastAPI questions, like how do you connect to a database? How do you join tables and configure database tables? How do you implement authentication? How do you structure a project with routes? And how do real-life FastAPI projects even look? Now, this is strictly a guide on how to build an intermediate project from scratch. If you want an A to Z reference guide on how to use FastAPI, then check out my best-selling FastAPI course linked below. If you're new to the channel, I'm Eric Roby, a software engineer with over a decade of experience, and I've helped thousands of developers learn and grow within their craft. Now, before we dive into code, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me tremendously. All right. Now I'm assuming that you've already clicked it, so let's dive into some code. All right, so let's start by looking at the project we're going to be building, which is a microblogging site, which is very similar to a lot of other microblogging sites out there. So when we look at it first, we have our users, which is create user, follow user, unfollow user. We're able to create a login for an access token. So if you successfully log in, you'll be able to get a JWT as a response. We have our read posts, create new post, delete post, update post, like and unlike post, retweet and unretweet posts, and then read post with counts, which is a really cool API that merges the users, the posts, and all that together to get a single response. So if we went through it real quick and we just said, hey, we're going to run this real quick, we can say we're going to have our username, Coding with Roby, email hi@codingwithroby.com with our password of test1234 ! Where we're able to get a successful response. We're going to sign in real quick. Hop on in. So now all of our endpoints are active. If we want to create a new post, we can create a new post. That programming is awesome. If we run this, we can see we get a successful response. And what's cool is let's go ahead and just like our own post real quick. So if you try and like it twice, you can see it's going to say already liked. So we're doing exception handling. And then if we retweet it real quick, we now have a retweet added to our own post. So just like any other microblogging site, you're able to like and repost your own post. So if you come over here now, we say execute here. This is where like a lot of the magic happens, where we're able to merge the post with the user. So we're having the programming is awesome with an ID of 1 with a timestamp, the owner ID, which is the unique identifier for the user, the number of likes, the number of retweets, and then finally the username. So if you think of like how a microblogging site works, you'll see the post, you'll see the number of likes, retweets, and the content and who posted it. So has all the information we need right there. So this is going to be a pretty cool application. Let's go ahead and dive into the code and see exactly how it's built. All right, let's go ahead and just look at the directory to start. So we have the schemas, which is going to be all the Pydantic objects for data validation. We're going to have the models, which is going to be all the database tables. Main, which is going to be like the main start for the application. We have exceptions where all of our exceptions are going to live. Auth, database, which is where the root of our database code and how we connect our FastAPI application to a database. Auth.py, which is going to be the authentication. And then inside our routes, we have another auth.py, which is simply some of the endpoints like being able to log in and get that JWT back. Posts, which is to create a post, and then users to be able to create a user and be able to follow and unfollow users. So it has all the information we need right here. All right, so now let's go ahead and dive into the code. So we have our database.py, which is going to be like the main spot. I'm going to say that we start because almost every file needs the database because that's where we're storing and retrieving data. So we're starting with our create engine, which is going to be able to create actually the engine for our SQL Alchemy, our declarative base, and our session maker. We have our URL string, which shows SQLite where it needs to live inside the application. So if we open up our directory, we can see it's going back 3 spots, and we're going to name the database microblog.db, and it's right here, microblog.db. We have to create an engine which just essentially creates the SQLite connection to our application. We need to add our session local, and then we just have this yield statement, which is going to be a dependency injection thing that we'll see later on in the files where we can create the connection to our database, do whatever we need, and then finally close the database once we're done using it for that operation. So that's awesome stuff. Now, if we look into our models, now our models are going to be a little bit more in depth than the database.py file. So we have our SQL Alchemy, which is going to need a column, integer, string, date, time, foreign key, and tables. That's going to be the actual field that is inside the table. So if there's a table, that's going to be the field of what needs to be saved inside a table when we start creating the tables. When we start creating the records. We're going to be creating relationships between our database tables. We need our database and we need date, time, and time zone to be able to capture the date when items are created, updated, deleted, whatever we want to do with that. All right, so to start, we have this follow association table that we need to create before the user class. Now, this is essentially creating the database schema that's saying our follower ID is going to be linked to a foreign key of user ID, and our followee ID is going to be linked to a user ID. So this is all about when a user is able to follow a new person on the application, or having a follower and being able to link it back to whoever's following your content. We then have our class user, which is going to be of base from SQL Alchemy. We're going to be naming this table users, and a user is going to have an ID, which is going to be an integer, which is going to be the unique identifier for that user. A username, which we're also going to make unique, so two users can't have the same username. We're going to block it at the database level so it can't get in. Same thing with the email. Then we're going to have a hashed password where we're going to be using bcrypt. The created at date, which is going to be today's date. So as soon as it gets to the database, what date is it? A user is going to have a relationship with post, which is going to back populate to the owner, which is the user. We then have our followers, which is equal to relationship. So our user secondary is going to be follow. And then here we can see that our primary join is going to be the ID of the follow.c.followee ID. And then the secondary join is going to be the follower ID. So that's just linking the follower status to the specific user. And then we have our post, which we're going to name posts. Same thing, we're going to have an ID of a primary key, content, timestamp, and owner ID. So a post is going to have a foreign key that goes back to the owner ID. And then it's going to have three relationships: to the owner, the number of likes, and the number of retweets. So let's go ahead and look at the likes and retweets. Our like is going to have two foreign keys, which goes back to the user ID and to the post ID. And then we're going to have the backfill relationship to the user and post. Retweet is going to have the exact same thing, except for we're also capturing a timestamp. So we're going to have the user ID and the post ID. The relationships are the same, but we're also capturing a timestamp. If we go ahead and look at the schemas, which is going to be simply the Pydantic base models, we're going to have our user base, our user create, and then our user. And then we're going to have these class configs from attributes equals true. This just simply allows the model to be initialized using objects or ORM like attributes instead of just using plain dictionaries. So this is really needed for ORM like SQL Alchemy. We then have our token schemas, our post schemas, and then lastly, our like and retweet schema. So it's going to be very similar to the data models that we're creating for our database table, but we're going to be using Pydantic for data validation. So when a request comes in or we're configuring data, we're going to be validating that data to make sure that we are only inputting correct data into the database. Now, if you're using something like SQL Model, that also comes with Pydantic on the database layer. But we're using SQL Alchemy here that does not come with a data validation layer. So we're doing extra data validation before it gets to the database using Pydantic by itself in the request of our FastAPI business logic. All right, and then if we look at our exceptions, we're going to separate all of our exceptions into different logic, where we're just going to have a standard 404, 403, 400, a 401, and a 409. Each of these strings come with default values, so you don't necessarily have to pass anything in, but it makes the application way better if you do. So these are just default values just to make sure you're not returning any kind of security vulnerabilities back to the application or back to the user. Our auth.py file also has a ton of information going on. We have our secret key, which is going to be your secret key. I'm just kind of keeping it right here for whatever you want to input, but you can add your secret key. An algorithm of HS256 with an expiration token of 30 minutes. Now, two things to note. Inside here, we're using more than just FastAPI. We're using PyJWT, which you can install by doing pip install PyJWT. And then we're using passlib, which we're using for this crypto context. And it's passlib of bcrypt, which allows us to be able to create the hash so our passwords are safe inside the database. So our password context is going to be bcrypt, and then this is from FastAPI just saying, hey, we're going to be retrieving an OAuth2 password form, which allows us to be able to do our bearer tokens and authentication fairly easy. So then we have our verify password, which is going to be using our password context just to make sure that, hey, when a plain password's passed in and our hash password's passed in, we can verify the user. And then if we want to get the password hash, we can go ahead and just return the hash of the password getting submitted. We then want to be able to create an access token. So we are just going to be creating the encode and then encoding it with the secret and algorithm, and then returning that encoded JWT back to the user. And then this get current user is what we're using as our dependency injection for each request that we want to hide behind authentication. And this request is what takes in the token and the database session, validates that the token is correct. And if it's not, we're going to return a PyJWT error and say, hey, you guys can't use this. But if it repasses all those requests, we're just going to return it back to the user saying, hey, this token is valid. Now our main.py, like I said, is going to be the bread and butter of starting our application, our base.metadata.createAll. What this essentially is doing is creating the database behind scenes. So it's checking and saying, hey, does this database exist? If not, let's go ahead and create it. If it does exist, then we don't need to create it. App equals FastAPI, that is just us starting with the root of our application. And then we have 3 routers, users, auth, and posts, which allow us to be able to scale the FastAPI application better, cleaner than just having, all the API endpoints stuck in one single main.py file. So our auth.py file is pretty simple. We have this router tag, which says, hey, all of our endpoints need to start with auth. So auth / whatever it is. Then we have our login endpoint, which is called token, which is going to respond back with the token if a user signs in with their information, or we're going to grab the form data, which is going to have the username and password. And then we're doing all of the calls back to our auth.py, like verify the JWT tokens, making sure that they haven't been altered at all, making sure it's not past expiration date, and then returning the token if it passes and doesn't raise any errors. Our users is doing the same thing where we have our tag of users and our prefix. So our prefix means it's going to start with /users. And then our tag is going to be like in Swagger where it says users up front. And then we're going to be using a little bit of annotated from Python within the typing hints. And here is where we can register users. And if we ever fail during it, we're just calling our exceptions. And here's where we can follow users, and we're doing the same thing, checking if the user's in the database. If not, we're going to throw some exceptions, append it there, or we're going to be able to unfollow user endpoints. And we're essentially doing the same thing here as well, where we're just going to be able to make sure the user exists. If we're not already following them, if the user doesn't exist, then we're going to say user not found. You can't unfollow yourself, not following this user. We're just checking a couple different scenarios to make sure that you're able to actually follow or unfollow that specific user. And then lastly, posts is the big one where we have our prefix of /posts, our tags of posts where we're doing the same thing with our database dependency. We have our get post endpoint, which we're going to have a couple query parameters here saying that we can only call 10 posts at a time to help with the bandwidth. We're going to say post equal to DB query. We're going to order by the timestamp descending, and then we're going to be passing in these skip and limit values, and then return the posts. If we're going to create a new post endpoint, we can see right here, we're going to return a response model of our schemas.post. We're going to be submitting that post, and we're going to make sure that the user is validated. If the user is validated, well, then we can just create that post, add it to the database, commit it, refresh, and then return that database back to the user. Now for delete, we're going to be passing an ID, returning a status code of 204. Make sure the user exists by using dependency injection. If the post does not exist, well, then we want to throw an exception saying post not found. But if it does exist, we just want to delete it and commit the post. For update, we want to do the same thing where we already have a post ID. We want to fetch that post ID to make sure it's actually in the database. We want to take the post request, swap out all the features in post that's different, which is just going to be content in this case. Make sure the user is valid and is the owner of the original post. which right here, we're checking to make sure the post is correct, not authorized to edit this post. And then we want to make sure that it's only within a 10-minute edit window. And that's because, like, if you make a post, you don't want them to be able to change the post a week later, right? We want to make sure that based on the exact time right now, in the exact time it was created, was it only a 10-minute window? And we want to do this all in the database and server side so there is no hacking or a user can't change it. If everything checks out, let's commit the post and make the update. If you want to like a post, we're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. Fetch the ID, make sure the post was found, making sure you haven't already liked it, and then allowing you to like it. You can like your post or anybody else's post. Unlike is the exact same logic, but it's doing the opposite, making sure that you can unlike items if you've already liked them. That's the only one condition, right? You have to like it first. We have our retweet post endpoint, which is doing the same thing as like, unretweet, which is doing the same thing as liked, but for retweets. And then here's the big one, get posts with counts endpoints. We want to call the database and be able to link it based on likes. So we are adding likes to the post. We then want to do it for retweets. We want to add a subquery to count the retweets for each post. So we're counting the likes and the retweets. We want to fetch the posts along with their like and retweet counts for their owner username. We have our model.post, our model username, where we includes the owner's username. We're going to join it with the like counts. We're going to join it with the retweets. And then we want to join it with our user IDs, where we can get the counts subquery. And then finally, we want to add the timestamp. And then down here, we're going to do it again, where we include the owner's username in the response and then return it as one entire post. Now, I know this was a ton. This source code is completely free. Get it in the link below. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it let you be able to scale projects a little bit more. I know there's so much to cover. I didn't go into crazy detail, but cheers, friends, and I'll see you in the next video.